Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with Charlie, aka AVFC, Academy AVFC. Sorry, I've got to get it right. The fountain of all knowledge related to the Aston Villa Academy and the under 18s, under 21s, and everything you need to know about the young players at Bodymore Heath. This is the second edition of Lions Den Latest, so we're going to delve right into what is happening with the academy at the moment. They're in various tournaments at the minute, so we're going to give an update on that. We're going to talk about the younger players that are featuring for the first team out in the USA and some of their futures. And then we're also going to talk about, maybe one or two players who might be moving on and seeing what we might be able to get out of them. And also your questions and comments as well that we've been gathering over the last couple of weeks. Before we get into it, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Help us on the road to 5,000 subscribers. We're very close to 4,500. So we want to hit 5K before the start of the season. So get your likes in, get your comments in, and subscribe to the channel. So Charlie, great to see you again, or great to have you on the pod again. Not necessarily seeing you in real life, but we know why we're doing that. But how are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, all good. It's been a weird one following Villa in America in the different time zones. So yeah, good. Just ready to go for the new season. Really, looking forward to the fixtures coming out for the youth teams and seeing how things play out, especially with like we talked about before, the youth league. That's going to be a really exciting one to cover this season.
Yes. Yeah, well, I think when we get the draw or however they do it, it'll be great to talk about that in future episodes. But yeah, really exciting prospect of what's going to happen with the youth teams and now they're stepping up their levels. Be interesting to see. Before we do get into kind of focus on the youth players, we are recording this on Thursday evening and we've just heard the real sad news about Craig Shakespeare, obviously a huge part of the coaching setup at Aston Villa under Dean Smith, former Leicester manager as well. And yeah, really, really sad news in passing away at the age of 60. So we really do pass our condolences to his family and close friends. And obviously, he does have a special place in the heart of Aston Villa fans as well, and was a really important part of Villa's history and the coaching setup under Dean Smith, Charlie.
Yeah, and someone from the area. He was from Great Bar, just like Dean Smith. And so I think during that time that he was at Villa, someone we all sort of had a connection with, much like we did Dean Smith. And so, yeah, really, really sad news. And again, just shows how callous a disease cancer is, having with him only being diagnosed in October last year. It's just really sad. And yeah, like you said, condolences to family, friends, and everyone sort of related to Craig.
Yeah, really, really, really sad news. And like I say, thoughts go out, and I hope Villa do a bit of a tribute to him. I'm sure they will. So yeah, but talking on the academy players, it's been quite an active time for them. I noticed I had a pre-season friendly against Chasetown, I think the last time we spoke, and they've been at a tournament across in Germany last week, and now they're in another Premier League tournament that was in India last year, now in the UK, and they had their first match today, or a match within the tournament that you kind of thankfully posted out, and I got to watch, and they won 3-2 against Punjab FC. But yeah, just round up what's been happening with the younger players within the academy and what they've been doing over the last few weeks.
Yeah, so first things first, I think firstly on the friendly with Chasetown, that was the first sort of documented pre-season friendly for the 21s. It was 2 45s and two different 11s. So that was a 1-0 win with Kobe Moore scoring the winner with a header from a Finley Munro cross. Since that, we took pretty much an under-21 team to Obendorf in Germany, where they played a tournament with matches against, I'm going to have to refresh my mind here, in the group stage, games against Stuttgart, St. Gallen from Switzerland, and MTK Budapest from Hungary.
Mm-hmm.
3 wins in those group fixtures. Rory Wilson stood out with a number of goals. There was a big win over St. Gallen, where Thierry Katsukunya scored, Aidan Borland scored a rocket, and progressed on through to the final of that tournament after beating Freiburg in the semi-final, and unfortunately lost out in the final to Midtjylland from Denmark. But yeah, a really interesting one actually. It's been interesting to see. It looks like we have a trialist at the moment, Mason Kocher, who has represented England under 17s and has been without a club actually for the past year because of some, I guess you could call it, dispute over a compensation fee that a club would owe Sunderland when they sign him. So he's been on trial at Arsenal and with Leeds. And from what I've seen, really positive. Scored a couple of goals in today's win over Bengal FC in the Premier League Next Generation Cup, and also back in Obendorf. Then moving on to the Premier League Next Generation Cup, like we said, a 3-2 win today. The format is a little bit funny, similar to the tournament in Obendorf, where it's a 50-minute match with 2 25-minute halves. And then in the Premier League Next Gen Cup, it's a penalty shootout after the match, regardless of result, for a bonus point.
Yes, I noticed that.
And so Villa were successful in the penalty shootout as well. Wilson, Borland, Kocher, and Brannigan all scored their penalties, and we won that shootout 4-2. If anyone wants to watch that shootout, there's a very funny penalty from the Bengal FC player where he double kicks it, and there's some dispute over because it goes into the net, and the officials sort of come together to rule it out. But it's quite a funny one to watch play out. So there's a couple more fixtures coming up with that one that looks set to be streamed by the Premier League on their YouTube channel. So tomorrow, which is Friday, there'll be a game against Stellenbosch from South Africa. And then on Saturday morning, a game against... who are they? I've forgotten. I think it's... let me just bring up the fixtures and I will tell you. But yeah, another game on Saturday morning against East Bengal FC. And then moving on to sort of placement matches and the final on Sunday. So again, just another good opportunity actually to see our under-21s playing, where opportunities sort of become a bit fewer and further between. Getting this opportunity in pre-season to see them tested against different types of opposition and see different players coming through into the setup. We mentioned Mason Kocher, but there was minutes today for Omar Kedir, who joined from ZFC. And so again, just new players for people to take a look at and sort of evaluate. But like with the first team, it's just at this stage probably more to do with fitness. Looking forward to when fixtures are released, kicking off the PL2 season, and like we said, the UEFA Youth League, I'm sure, is a big one for the players to be looking at.
Absolutely. And it's a fantastic experience, isn't it? You've reeled off different clubs there from all different parts of the world, and it must be a fantastic experience for those players to play against different styles, different technical abilities, and every team there was from a different country, so that's got to be really valuable for the players.
I think people underappreciate it as well. That's the point of these tournaments, is that exposure to different styles of football, different cultures, and part of this Premier League Next Generation Cup is sort of a sharing of knowledge between the Premier League academies and the sides that are coming over from India and South Africa. And so And I think on top of that, it will be seen as an opportunity, maybe perhaps for the scouts at the club to take a look at some of the talent from India and South Africa, because these are markets which I don't think clubs tap into very much, and perhaps we might see that becoming a tactic that scouts employ going further forward, albeit with the difficulties of getting players registered. So it might be something where they monitor players over a longer period of time. But yeah, that exposure for both parts of that process, so the Indian and South African teams, but also Villa to play against a team with a different culture and a different heritage and a different way of playing.
Yeah, and even the likes of Michelin, St. Gallen, Stuttgart, those teams that you mentioned there, all different levels, all, some have probably got strength in depth at different age group levels as well. So yeah, really good for them to be playing those. And just on the basis of those matches that you've watched the last couple of weeks, which players have stood out for you in terms of their quality?
So I think the first thing worth mentioning is that the side that played in Obendorf, I think, is actually quite similar to how we're looking likely to set up in the UEFA Youth League with the ages of the players that were involved. So undoubtedly, Rory Wilson is the first name that comes to mind. He was the top scorer in this Obendorf international tournament, scoring 5 goals. With some the one in particular stood out. There's an absolutely incredible header from a position that he should not be scoring a header from, and that was brilliant. Travis Patterson, I think, is showing again why he had that brief spell of involvement with the first team.
I was going to mention him. I mean,
about 18 months ago.
Yeah. I was going to mention. Sorry, just on that. I was going to mention Patterson. I know he got sent off today.
Yeah.
In the game today, but physically, I mean, I think I pointed him out to you in our last episode, and I said he looks like he could do something, but he might have even grown or developed even further in the last month or two, because he looks, when players just look that little bit more physically strong than any player on the pitch. And I don't think he would look out of place training with the first team players, physically right now. I think he could be one to really watch.
Yeah, and I think his development is potentially part of the situation which allows us to let someone like a Ben Cuisine go and have a permanent move away from the club. It is because we have no shortage of left backs at the club, really.
Yeah.
Even looking beyond the first team, there are a couple of fullbacks who primarily play on the left who have ambitions of playing in the Villa first team, and so there had to be a full guy in that. Obviously, we've seen Ben Cuisine is that guy. Travis Patterson actually, I think, lines up quite similarly to Ben Cuisine. Got that versatility, can play either further back or further forward on the left, can drop into midfield as well. And from what I saw in today's game, just that dynamism going forward, excellent dribbler. And yeah, he stood out across these matches. I'm really looking forward to seeing more of Aidan Borland next season. I think the more and more he gets tested, the more and more he rises to the occasion. I tweeted a clip of the goal that he scored in Obendorf. That was ridiculous, and it's that combination of technique to do something like that, as well as the sort of battling qualities that we see, almost echoing sentiments of what people would say about John McGinn, that sort of battler who provides the energy for the team. But I think, Borland is really one to look out for this season. I'm predicting a big year for him, with all the fixtures that are coming up in different competitions.
Fantastic. Now, some of the youth players or under 21s have been selected to go out to America with the first team, and we've seen some of them featuring the likes of Feeney, Bogard, and I guess, I don't know if you call Cameron Archer returning or Jaden Philogene returning. I don't know if you would claim credit for them now, Charlie. I'm not sure, but what have you made of some of those players and how they've performed with the first team?
Yeah, it's always put a contention with when a player becomes one that I can't I can't cover anymore. And I think Archer and Philogene unfortunately fall into that category. But yeah, exciting to see the pair of them back at the club. Philogene especially, I think, has got something to add to the first team. Archer sort of remains to be seen what the plan is for him and where he fits into what we're trying to do this season. So I'll reserve judgment on that one. But yeah, in terms of the academy players that have been involved, I think Josh Feeney had a solid half, and I think was unfortunate for the couple of goals that were scored. One off the back of a Torres giveaway, where Feeney was asking for a foot race with Cucho Hernandez, and I don't think that's a situation he's ever going to win as a centre back. So. But otherwise, I was pretty happy with his performance. They clearly trust him in the build-up, and there was a couple of line breakers through into midfield, which were nice. Lamar Bogard, again, I've been really, really happy with his progression. There was talk, obviously, like we spoke about before, potential of him leaving the club. That seems to have died down. There's now talk of a new contract. And it doesn't shock me, given the level of football that he's been able to show in pre-season. The 45 that he played against Spartak Trnava was brilliant.
Yeah, he was fantastic, driving with the ball forward.
Yeah, exactly that, and that's his qualities. That he's a strong ball carrier through midfield, and when he plays at centre back, he's got that good range of passes to break the lines. We saw Olivier Zich play. I'm trying to remember now. It was 40. Well, it was an hour last night because Zolson came off injured, and I think it was also 45 at the weekend against Columbus. And I think he's not disgraced himself by any stretch of the imagination. I think he's done a couple of things sort of above average. There was a save last night where he puts his body in at point blank, and I was pretty happy with that. Unfortunate with the goal that he conceded last night against RB Leipzig, because there's a brilliant save and the players there on the follow-up. I'm trying to think who else has been involved.
Swinkles. I don't know if he's played in America yet. But
no, he hasn't. I'd probably expect to see him maybe at the weekend against Club America. They seem to be sharing out the minutes a little bit. But yeah, again, the glimpses that we've seen from Sil Swinkles have been nice. Sometimes a bit brash with his first touch. There was one against Spartak Trnava where he takes a heavy touch and goes flying into a tackle. But beyond that, the long-range passing that he's been displaying in the 20 footballers translated. There was a couple of nice moments against Warsaw, I can remember. And so, yeah, I think the academy players that have been involved have done pretty well. I don't think anyone has looked completely lost. No one has looked out of their depth. And so it's a testament to the regime and the philosophy in the academy department that we've got these players coming in and looking at home.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of those 4 or 5 that we've just spoken about, would you anticipate them going out on loan within this period of the season, or would you maybe think a couple of them might stick around for the UEFA Youth League and going back into the under-21s?
That's the decision this season. The talk has been with Josh Feeney that League One clubs are potentially interested in a loan. So again, that would be hugely beneficial for his development to get a season of playing men's football, and that's a good level to be playing at. Bogard, again, I think is someone who's going to have limited opportunity within our first team this season with the signing of Amadou Onana. And the way we're looking to structure our midfield this season. So I think a loan move would suit all parties there. I would like to see Bogard tested at the highest possible level. And so if that can be a top division across Europe, if that's in the Netherlands with him being Dutch, the Belgian league, I think, is a good developmental league that we could potentially utilise if clubs are interested. Bundesliga is the best example of that. Yeah, I think generally speaking, the players that have been involved with the first team are all of the players that we would probably expect to go on loan if we can find something that suits. I'm thinking about Sil Swinkles. Again, I'm not sure what he's got to gain from another season of playing under 21 football, and
Yeah.
he's not eligible for the UEFA Youth League, and so I remove that from the consideration. Ziyech went on loan last season, had a brilliant season in the Extraclasa. So again, if we can perhaps test him again with maybe something in League One or the Championship, I think that would be expected and not be a surprise. And yeah, beyond that, I think if we're talking about the academy players that have been involved so far through preseason, Louis Barry, I think we're going to come on to in a second when we talk about
Yeah.
the futures of the players maybe who haven't travelled to America. And Louis Barry is one that I'm probably expecting to have some movement on as we move towards the end of the transfer window.
Yeah. Well, let's talk that briefly. So Tommy O'Reilly's gone on loan to
Yes.
Shrewsbury. Philip Marshall to Crewe. Obviously, we've seen Sinisalo move a permanent transfer to Celtic, and you mentioned Ben Krasinski to Norwich. So some players there going out on permanent moves, and obviously that helps with in any way with the PSR or FFP as well a little bit. So yeah, I guess good moves for those guys. I think Tommy O'Reilly is already impressing with Shrewsbury, so that's quite good for him. And then yeah, future of other players, namely the Louis Barrys and maybe one or two others, like you mentioned Cameron Archer and maybe one or two of the other younger players that we've brought in from elsewhere going out on loan as well.
So yeah, I'm really excited to see Tommy O'Reilly get an opportunity in men's football. From what I gather from Shrewsbury's sort of replies to their tweets and the way they talk about Tommy, he's really been impressing. Scored a deflected free kick in their friendly at the weekend. But yeah, every time I sort of scroll through their feed during one of their friendlies, it feels like his name is in every other tweet. So it feels like stuff is happening. That'll be a really interesting one because of the new Sky Sports deal. There's going to be more and more games available to watch on TV, so we'll be able to keep a closer eye on these players.
Yeah.
And Tommy is someone who I've made no mystery about that I love watching in the meantime anyway. Philip Marshall, this is an interesting one. I'm not too sure whether he walks in and will be number one at Crewe. Goalkeeping position seems to have been split a little bit in their pre-season friendly, so we'll see how that one plays out.
Yeah.
From what I gather, there was some difficulties at MK Dons during the back end of last season. He went in, started 2 or 3 matches, I think picked up an illness or an injury, missed a few games, and then came back and struggled to get in the team. So again, interested to see how consistently he's playing. And really hope he just allows himself to show the talent that's got him a European debut with Villa. And yeah, it's a big season for him. If you were to ask me, does he have a future with Villa? Because of the wealth of goalkeepers on our books at the moment, I would say probably not. Mm-hmm. And so this season becomes hugely important for him in securing what that future is going to look like for him.
Yeah. And then I guess the potential outgoing. So yeah, what does the future hold for Louis Barry and one or two of the other players that we're kind of on the fringes?
So yeah, I think Louis Barry, I think we said before, I'm fully expecting a permanent move. I think it's just about awaiting an offer that the clubs deem as appropriate. There's been talk of, initially there was talk of Stockport in League One now, which would be a nice move, having helped to get them promoted. There was talk of a move to Birmingham, which would be an interesting one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the main thing for Barry is, again, I think his ceiling deserves a move to a club where he's going to be tested, someone with upward trajectory, because he's able to grow with a team. again, I don't think the opportunity is going to come at Villa. Just again because of the nature of Premier League football now. If someone breaks down in pre-season, we'll go out and buy again.
Yeah.
Rather than him coming through. So I think that his career is destined to lie away from Villa. But from the player's perspective, I think that's exciting. Like we said, that opportunity to grow with the team will be something that really I'm expecting Barry to potentially be one of those ones that we look back on in a couple of years and say, oh, that's the Louis Barry that was at Villa and the academy helped make a good professional footballer who has a good career. Trying to think who else is on the fringes, who we could potentially be discussing. I think Rico Richards is an interesting one.
Yes. And what about Jamal
Aloba? Yeah. So if I do Richards first, I think that one's a bit more clear cut. He's again, I'd expect to be in the market for a move, whether that's permanent or a loan. Just again because of the nature of the signature, I think it's similar to the way the Finn Azaz deal happened, where the club have brought him in looking to sort of raise his profile to sell on for a profit. Had a well-reputed time at Stockport, and their fans seem to be happy with his performance. So perhaps there's something that could be exploited there. Be interesting to see again how that one plays out. The only involvement I can gather from pre-season that Richards was involved in was the Chasetown friendly, and wasn't involved in the Obendorf tournament. I think potentially because of the age limit on the tournament.
Right.
So I think all signs are pointing to a move in some form. And then Jamal Aloba. This is probably the move that will tell us the most about the club's approach to the UEFA Youth League, because I think Jimo Aloba is someone who needs to be tested at the highest level quickly. And so whether that's the club being interested in a loan move or helping him refine and improve across this season as we head into the youth league to get that experience of playing against different cultures and going through that experience. It's again a huge season coming up for Jamal Aloba, not because there's a threat of leaving, but because he's probably one of the two or three that are on the precipice of making that breakthrough.
Interesting. And Caden Young as well. We didn't talk about him. He's featured a little bit in the pre-season.
I would love a loan move for Caden Young. Again, I talked about the sort of structure of loan moves and how they can work in these sort of developmental European leagues. Again, I would love to see that because of that test of adapting to a new culture. And again, just the standard of football that they're allowed to play in those leagues. I really would like to see him go on loan this season, just because, again, it's been a couple of years now where he's had that sort of tag of making the breakthrough into first team training and stuff like that. And now we need to see some action. We need to see some first team minutes at either a football league club or somewhere on the continent, where we can see what he's actually able to do and sort of stand up to the rigours of men's football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I've got a question. So fantastic information you've given us, and the knowledge you've got is just wonderful, mate. Absolutely wonderful. But Jonathan Ridgway asked a question: loan for Rory Wilson this year, do you reckon, or do you think he's leaving us for someone else?
That talk seems to have quietened down a bit, and the way I'm seeing his consistent involvement through these tournaments is set up as though he looks likely to stay. I'm trying to play detective a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting one. I think he's going to be the spearhead of our youth league campaign, providing that he stays at the club. I don't think he's going to go on loan because it's a difficult one. I think people tend to overstate where he's at in his progress.
You've said this a few times, haven't you?
and it's just simply because of the number of goals that he scores. Like,
Yes.
and I can see why people do that. I think the main thing for him will be, hopefully, a consistent, maybe the first part of the season consistently in under 21 football, contribution to the UEFA Youth League campaign, and then perhaps in January we'll be talking about the prospects of a loan move. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. If the talk, or if the situation with Mason Cotter evolves, how them two have been shaping up in pre-season, they've been linking up pretty nicely,
Yeah.
and I'm looking forward to see what that can look like for us going ahead this season.
Yeah. Interesting stuff, mate. Interesting stuff. And a, a couple of we've got a question from Rachel here, which is a question and then a little bit more of a statement that we've talked about a little bit. So I'll cover it in two parts, and this would be a good way to kind of finish up this episode 2 of Lions Den Latest. She says, in your opinion, what area of the academy should Villa be trying to improve next, such as winning trophies, higher table positioning, or selling the project, etc.?
I think the bit that and I don't necessarily think this is specific to Villa, but I think where academy football is diversifying going forward will be the way they look to utilise those undervalued markets.
Mm-hmm.
And so Villa have been big ones recently for recruiting through British teams. We've seen a couple of guys come over from Linfield. Obviously, Rory Wilson, we're talking about, came over from Rangers. Ewan Simpson from Hearts. Aidan Borland from Celtic. And so...
Didn't we sign a lad from Luton as well last week?
Yeah. Ruth, I can't remember his first name. But
yeah, utilising
Leon
that
Ruth,
market.
that's his name.
Yes, there you go. You got there in the end.
But yeah, I think it'll be about how they diversify and increase the exposure for those players coming in. Because again, we can talk if we talk about the youth league this season. If Villa don't qualify for the Champions League and Villa don't win that tournament, then that's only going to be a one-season thing. So again, it's increasing that exposure as much as possible to the most diverse styles of football that you can, in readiness for the challenges that you get in a first team. And then on top of that, diversifying the type of talent that you're able to bring in. We've talked about Omar Khedr. There's been some talk about a couple of Ivorian players coming in on Twitter, and so I think that's the next step for the academy, is sort of looking into those markets. And this can be a marketing exercise. It can be really sort of high-level scouting as well. It can be about identifying someone and being able to sort of shine the diamond that is rough in the state that you buy them. So yeah, I think that's where the club is heading, and what the club are trying to do. And I think that's in general an analysis of where academy football is heading. We've seen Chelsea spend a lot of money on South American products. And I think football is heading in that direction, where they're looking to try and identify the next South America or the next Argentina or the next Brazil, for where these young footballers are coming through.
Yeah. I think I make you dead right there, to be honest, Charlie. I make you dead right. And then final part of her question, I would say, but more of a statement, is I know the communication of the academy is poor, so I hope they're actively trying to improve that already. Your thoughts on that?
I mean, there has been little bits. I was impressed with the fact that Villa tweeted, covered on the official site about the Premier League International. The Next Generation Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the coverage since that has diminished, but just simply that they were encouraging us, informing us that it was happening. I think we'll see how that plays out, because the UEFA Youth League is that sort of in between developmental football and football fans will want to see. And so I know clubs like Liverpool and Arsenal really do cover those games strongly. Celtic, when I've seen them playing in the youth league, they have their own dedicated account. They stream their games live on their streaming platform, and so it will be interesting to see how they handle that. Whether it's still that same process of sort of you only find out about the game on the day of the game, or whether there's that increase because I think the academy warrants it. And so it's an interesting year just to see again how the club are going to sort of handle that.
Yeah. Well, I still think, I mean, the Villa TV proposition at 24.99 is a very reasonable proposition in my opinion for the full season, and I think to hopefully incorporate some more youth team action, some interviews, profiles, and features on them would be great. I think, you know, keeping it within sort of dedicated supporters would be fantastic, and particularly for those that are you know, across in different countries. I think to keep the knowledge of players coming through or how they're developing, I think is great, because, you know, I do understand sometimes if you've got a hot prospect, although, you know, scouts will be watching them, I think sometimes like broadcasting it all over the place might not be the best idea, depending on what you want to do with that younger player. But yeah, I do think utilizing some of the in-house club coverage would be really good. But obviously your coverage is fantastic, and your following must be growing day by day as well, Charlie.
Yeah, I think I said before when we spoke that we can criticise the club all we want, but it's a positive thing for me and my account.
Yeah.
Yeah, in general, I'm still fighting that same fight as I was, and still have been ever since creating the account. I still believe the club can do a much better job of what they are doing, and should be doing a better job if we're talking about the level that other clubs cover their academies. So yeah, like you say, I would like to see a bit more sort of media stuff with the players. Perhaps that'll come again with the exposure to the UEFA Youth League, where if games are on TV. I know TNT do show the
Yes, I
UK-based
do.
UEFA
Yeah.
Youth League games. So again, that exposure might not necessarily come through the club, but might come through another form, and that's TV. So yeah, it's the UEFA Youth League adds, like I've said, a sort of different, a bit of a different dynamic to all aspects
Yeah.
of the coverage of the academy, doesn't it? And so, yeah, interesting one to see whether we see any noticeable change. The other good thing, actually, just quickly on you mentioning Villa TV, really nice to see it back as a complimentary for season ticket holders. I
Yes.
think that was a
Yeah.
big barrier for people when they took it away last season, and so nice to see that back. And again, just allows there to be a bit of an easier passage into coverage of the academy.
Yeah. 100%. It's going to be exciting. It's really exciting, actually. I'm really looking forward to what's in store for the academy and this UEFA Youth League and everything that comes with it. So what's next for the Aston Villa Academy for the next month? I think it'll be kind of 3-4 weeks till we meet again. So what's next over the coming weeks for them?
So we'll be talking about the start of the season. Normally, the transition between fixtures being announced and the season actually starting tends to happen pretty quickly. I believe last season it was sort of 1 or 2 weeks before the start of the season that you get the fixtures. And so I'm expecting there to be some announcement shortly about the fixtures.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be one thing. Second thing is the continuation of this Premier League Next Generation Cup. I'm excited to see the different tests that we go through in that competition. So that'll be nice to see. Hopefully, get into the later stages. Get into the final of that competition on Sunday, and again, just a nice opportunity to have some sort of stress-free coverage of the academy. And then, yeah, I think as we move into the later stages of the transfer window, a lot of these players' stories that we've been talking about will become a lot clearer. And so when we do talk again, we'll probably have a bit more concrete stuff to say about players' futures, whether that be a Louis Barry moving on or players leaving on loan. It'll be nice to see the types of moves that we're able to procure for some of the players who look to be making the most progress.
Fantastic. Yeah, really exciting time, and just loads of great stuff happening across the club. So, Charlie, once again, an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you very much for joining us on this second edition of Lions Den Latest. As I say, we'll be back in a few weeks' time where, like you said, we'll be able to maybe give some concrete news on players moving to develop their careers or going out on loan to further, hopefully, get their chance for their first team. Where can people find you if they haven't already?
So the main place will be Academy AVFC on X or Twitter. Same handle on Instagram, albeit Instagram not updated as frequently. And yeah, anytime there's an under 18 or under 21s match, the place to find coverage of it is on my Twitter account.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, like I said, we'll be back in a month or so's time to cover the latest news with the Aston Villa Academy. We've got plenty more shows to come. We've got match reaction, maybe a match preview as well for the Club America game, fans forum next week, and we might hopefully see a couple more of the Academy prospects playing against Club America and maybe featuring next week against Atletico Bilbao and possibly even Dortmund. So really exciting time. Thank you everyone for watching. Make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and comment below your thoughts and any questions, anything you want Charlie to focus on in our next episode. Once again, thank you very much, Charlie. Thank you all for watching. And as always, remember, we'll follow the Villa.